Over the past few years, Kaizer Chiefs management has been called a lot of names. Among them is Chipskate because of their refusal to spend money on certain players that the team desperately needs. They've signed 7 players this season. How much have we spent on them? Or how much have they spent on the players? And based on the amount of money that they spent on the players, then you guys get to tell me, are they cheapskates? Hello and welcome to Khosi Nation Fan TV. I am Pelo. I am your host. This is where fans meet and talk about Kaizer Chiefs. Amakosi Football Club. Right. We are going to start at the back from the defenders all the way to Rangachiba Biro and talk about how much money was spent on each of the players. Starting with Ukivinim Simango. Kivinim Simango, Kaizer Chiefs reportedly, according to Latuma, spent 4 million on Kevin Msimang, which kind of makes me laugh because laughing. Because think about it. Chiefs didn't sign Kevin Msimango last season, but they've signed him this season. And last season, remember, he had 1 year remaining on his contract, which means it would have been cheaper to get him last season. Because if you are telling Munguti with his extended contract, he costs 4 million, I'm like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. But then again, you have to realize that ETS Galaxy were in some financial problems, reportedly. Well, the players did say that some people came out and said they were struggling to even pay their players. So it makes sense why they offloaded one of their best players, if not their best player, in the past season and in the past few seasons as well, because they also sold and tried to sell other players as well. So it makes sense why Umsimang was let go, and with this amount of money, 4 million, which I think is a bargain. And once again, I will note before people say, hey, the club never confirmed, as if the club ever confirms how much a player is sold for. Because even though Bloom, we are told by Otiski Times Guti was sold for 5 million, but we don't really have the confirmation from the club. So for now, we're going to go according to reported fees before we get people saying, okay, fine. Moving on to the next player is Utitlok. Guess how much money we spent on Titlok? Zero. Nothing. We didn't spend anything at all. And this kind of justifies what Kaizer Chiefs have. No, I wouldn't call them cheapskates for this, but usually they wait until a player's contract runs out, which is why people have accused Kaizer Chiefs of being shady, and that is why they're always involved in these player scandals. Because what is here? No, it's actually this thing. Because people have said that Kaizer Chiefs tells players not to renew their contract because they're going to come and sign them if they end up being free agents. I don't know how true that is, but a lot of people have accused Chiefs of that. So when you see players being signed to Kaizer Chiefs as free agents, then this thing always comes back to your mind. Do they do that? Do they? Because we're still going to talk about other free agents as well. In this case, the Kaizer Chiefs. But they didn't spend anything with the clock as well, which once again is a bargain. And instead, Matthews ended up complaining about that. But here he is selling players to Sundowns instead of just letting players go abroad. Or even worse, not selling players to Chiefs, yet selling them to Sundowns, which basically proves the other thing that we always say with Super Sports is actually just a development, yes, and downs. Anyways, we're not there. We are going to talk about the third player, but before we talk about that, I would like to say special shout out to Isaac Mbungele. I hope I'm saying your surname right, who's a member of this channel. You can also become a member of this channel by clicking the link on the comment section below, and it's only 20 rands. You get member shout out, you get loyalty badges next to your name when you comment, and priority reply to your comments. I've been busy over the past 2 days, but I want to respond to all the comments that I haven't responded to today. Anyways, also please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. That helps me to reach more people like you. Let's continue. Next one is Edson Castillo. Edson Castillo, once again, another player that Diski Times reported Uguti Kaizer Chiefs wanted to sign in January, which proves Uguti. I think sometimes we exaggerate when we say they are not journalists in SA. It's just that there are some news that they miss, like Indabaya, Gangezana. But most of the signings, if we're being honest, I think 80% of the times they are right. Well, sort of the things that they report, they end up coming through. coming true, yeah, becoming true. And one of them is Edson Castillo. It is Times reported earlier on in the year Guti Castillo was wanted by Chiefs, and Chiefs ended up opting not to sign him. And then because he had just left the Caracas at the time, the team that he was playing for, and then he went to play for what's the name of this team? Monarchs, the one that we bought him from. To me, it feels like he signed a contract with the Monarchs because he wanted to keep himself busy. Because if you think about it, his contract was reported to be a short term contract the last time I read, which means the money, according to transfer market, they are saying that he's worth 7 million. But that does not mean he was bought for 7 million. Because if he signed a short term contract with the Monarchs, there's a possibility also Guti Chiefs might have gotten him for free. But knowing the Chiefs and knowing Guti contract, yeah, okay, the short term one was reported to be around 18 months or so. That means the Chiefs could have easily gotten him for half that money. Let's add the 3.5 million to that because he's worth 7 million, but Chiefs were not going to pay that amount of money for a midfielder if they couldn't pay that for a striker, and the striker they also needed. So let's say 3.5 for Edson Castillo. And then we move on the same thing ke manje with uMduduzi Mdantsane. Eka uMduduzi Mdantsane, we kind of know it because it was also reported once again by Diski Times ukuthi uMduduzi Mdantsane, when Chiefs went to try and sign him on a pre-contract in January, once again, free agent, they couldn't because Cape Town City then triggered the option to extend by a further year. And then after the negotiations, reported by Otis Times ukuthi Kaizer Chiefs paid 3.5 million to secure the deal kaMduduzi Mdantsane. We are going to do the totals once we are done and see how much Kaizer Chiefs have spent so far this season. The next one is Pulemodi. Pulemodi contract yakhe. Chiefs could have bought him last season for less than 2.5 million, but they opted to wait for him and let his contract run out, and they got him for nothing. They got him for nothing. They got him as a free agent again with a second free agent, potentially third if Castillo was a free agent. But for now, let's just say two free agents because we know Titlok was free and Pulemodi was also free. Speaking of free players, same thing with Upotsane. They waited for the 1st of July, and then Royal AM didn't trigger the option to extend by a further year. Then Kaizer Chiefs, they pounced. Another free agent. So out of the 7 players, out of the 6 players that I've counted so far, 3 of them are already were bought, were acquired for free. It's not free age, it's not were bought, they were acquired for free. They just went out and dealt with Imali. This is how much we're gonna pay you, but they didn't pay anyone. Which leads us to Uranga Chibabiro. Now, Egaranga Chibabiro kwayena price yakhe ime kanje. So there is Otladisa, there is Uranga. They were both going to be sent by Galans to Orlando Pirates. For how much? For 9.5 million for 2 players, right? So Otladisa ngapha, Uranga ngapha. You divide that in half because Otladisa is still young and is still a skillful player. You say, let's just say Uranga was going to cost 500,000 more. Then that means Chiefs must have paid 5 million to 6 million for Uranga. Now it brings us to the Mets class. So we have 5 million Garanga, we have 4 million ga Msimango, which makes 9. We have 3.5 million ga Castillo, which makes 12.5. And you have 3.5 million ga Mduduzi Mdantsane, which brings us to a grand total of 16 million. That's all Kaizer Chiefs have spent this season so far. They have spent 16 million on 7 signings, and here we are sitting here thinking Kaizer Chiefs has been spending millions and 20s of millions. I will say this. I don't want to say Kaizer Chiefs are cheapskate because they've only spent 16 million. By the way, for 16 million, Kaizer Chiefs have gotten 7 players, and Kangisamayo on his own was going to cost 24 million. Lomchitalo from the team was playing for Yanga was going to cost to 10 million. Fiston Mile. Bese kuzoba Mendieta was going to cost to 12 million. Chiefs were not going to pay that amount of money. Which brings me to this question. I want to ask you all this question. Is this smart business or is it being cheapskates, because ukhona ukuthi yes, some of the players that we've signed, we see ukuthi we really needed them, but the other players that I feel like we needed abakhosta imali, maybe they're still going to be brought on, but the Chiefs has not signed them and it doesn't look like they will sign them, which then again is, are Chiefs just being smart and spending as little as they can, or they're just being cheap? I will reserve my opinion. Zozongani in my comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember, equals Pelumo.